Hey Money Guy family, it's your host Brian Preston, back with another episode of Ask the Money Guy.
That's right. You guys have financial questions, we have financial answers. Go out to your favorite social, use the hashtag AskTheMoneyGuy, or go to our website, moneyguy.com, and ask, and we will answer your financial question right here in the Tesla.
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
So, Brian, today's question actually comes from YouTube, and it's actually an amalgamation of a lot of different YouTube comments that we've seen and that we received. And we tried to sort of do a summation of all of them, and this is sort of what we've come up with. How is Tesla, or why is Tesla the best or the most effective or most efficient or the auto manufacturer that's going to take over the world? What is it about Tesla that makes Tesla so special?
And Bo, you asked me, we've had conversations
Oh, yeah.
where you'll say, Brian, is this all hype? Is Elon just a
Marketing genius.
Is he just a marketing guy? Is he a carnival barker? What really makes this tick? So we haven't done Tesla content in a while, and I am just itching to share some thoughts.
Sure.
So I wanted to kind of go, I have three things to talk about. And the first is, what is the genius of Tesla and what they've created? Is instead of just coming up with a product, you probably noticed we were just at the Tesla Supercharger. Instead of coming up with just a product, Elon back in 2006 came up with the master plan. It was a master plan that showed what the evolution from product to actually creating a different idea that will change people's behavior, and it's been genius. And part of that is like the superchargers. We just drove by a bunch of superchargers, so you can go all across the country, you can drive on a road trip, and you have a way to charge your electric Tesla.
So superchargers didn't exist before Tesla.
That's genius. Now look, General Motors had places to charge, but they were all out in California because that's where the incentives were. You couldn't go cross country. And I've even heard, Porsche has their electric vehicle coming out, and they're going to put them at Porsche dealerships. But try to go recharge in Jackson, Tennessee, and I think you're going to have a problem. Whereas there's a Tesla supercharger there that I've used a few times when I'm going to Memphis or someplace else on a road trip. So that's the thing. I want to talk about, number one, was the infrastructure that Tesla's created with superchargers is genius.
Okay.
Number two, of what's going to help Tesla dominate and continue to make them successful is this rollout of the SUVs and the Tesla truck. This one
like
is
the
one.
semi-truck.
Well, they have the semi-truck, and that's an offshoot, and that's a product that's coming.
So you're talking about like a commercial truck.
I'm talking about like if we had the camera pointing in front, there's a work truck in front of us, a big old dually with the 4 tires in the back, 2 in the front. I'm sure when he revs up, he's going to shoot out a plume of black diesel smoke. But that's the thing that I think that Tesla has really got to focus on, is this Tesla truck. And I want to elaborate, because I think we are unique. We're from the South.
That's right.
And I don't know if you could hear the big diesel truck in front of me, but I have a background. I even own like a Jeep Wrangler that's all jacked up with the 4-inch lift, the 37-inch rims and stuff. So I kind of resemble the person that I think Elon and Tesla needs to go after for these trucks. But I'm a little nervous with what the vision is that Tesla has. Now, they're saying a lot of good things, but if you go back to the end of 2018 when Elon had it was a tweet chain that kind of, he was asking people to give him input on the truck. What I thought was interesting is he said, when people said, what's it going to look like, or what's the guidance, and this is his quote, it's going to be really futuristic, like cyberpunk, think Blade Runner. So my concern is, instead of us thinking cyberpunk, I would ask Elon to think monster truck.
Okay.
Because what we need to capture here, think about this, guys. I've got a world envisioned. We already have all the smart, successful nerds. Watch any TV show, watch any movie. What does a person want when they become wildly successful? You see them in Model S's,
Tesla,
Model X's. We've had clients sell businesses for millions of dollars. The first thing they want to go buy is a Tesla.
Yep.
And I'm kind of the same way. I win $400 million in the lottery. I'm probably still buying a Tesla. So how do we translate that to the small business owner? Because remember, 1996, Millionaire Next Door is released, and the big thing that was on every TV show about the Millionaire Next Door was the number one vehicle for Millionaire Next Door types is the F-150 Ford truck.
It's a Ford pickup truck.
And you know why? Is because there's a lot of small business owners that are truck owners. So we need to capture that audience. But the problem is, this is a fiercely loyal group. I grew up and resembled this also with my family structure, is that I grew up in a household where you either supported Chevy, you supported Ford, or you supported Mopar.
Okay.
And Mopar is your Dodge.
Dodge, sure.
And the thing is that you supported that in NASCAR, you supported that in the vehicles you purchased, especially your truck. I know this sounds, for people out in California, you're probably thinking, this sounds crazy, but this is your truck owners.
Sure.
And I know a lot of these people, they're hunters, they're small business owners, and they're expecting their truck to kind of represent this backbone of tradition. So we have to convert these people to recognize that there's a better mousetrap. And we have to let them know there's an American-made better mousetrap with Tesla. And here's the unique thing that Tesla does. It's quirky. When I'm showing people autopilot, I love when I show them, the autopilot and the Mad Max mode and all the other quirky stuff like pole position, the Atari games, the whoopee cushion, that this thing makes the fart sounds and all that stuff. It makes people cackle and laugh. We could do the same thing with trucks. Think about the truck owner who, as an option, can add an air horn, think like a train. They already do it. I had one blow at me this morning. I turned left, this big old jacked up truck pulled his horn, and it scares the heebie-jeebies out of you because they have a big old train horn on their truck.
Right.
We see these things around here all the time. Tesla could have make fun of that by adding it as an option.
Sure.
And I think that could be a true thing that makes them unique and start building some notoriety, because it is an amazing concept. If you think about it, if we could make Tesla truck an it truck just like it is the it car for successful entrepreneurs,
Sure.
Tech people and so forth. And that's why I get nervous when I see Cyberpunk, because I've been to Dragon Con and some of these other, nerd festivals
Sure.
where that kind of fits in. We need to move more towards probably like a Ford Raptor. Think the F-150, but all beefed up. Because that's what the Ford Raptor is. It's an F-150 that's masculine, overpowered, and then also very functional. Sure. If Tesla could do that, it's game over, I think, in the truck game. And that's just revolutionary. Final thing I want to talk about when Tesla actually takes over the world, and that is when we reach 500 miles of range. Now, I know the technology is not there yet. We've had some steps. I have a friend that has a Model X. He's in the 200 range on his total range. This car is 310 on the Tesla Model 3 here. But here's the truth.
Why is 500 a magic number?
No, that's what I want to get into. That. It's because everyday driving, electric vehicles should dominate. I love that I don't go to the gas station anymore. All I do is I drive my car every few days. When I get home, I plug it in at the house. And then I wake up in the morning, and you have your cup of coffee, you unplug the car, and it's ready to rock and roll for another 270 miles, because I've charged it up to about 80% for everyday driving. There is a problem, and Bo, you've experienced this with me. We've been on a few business trips.
That's right.
Range anxiety is a real thing.
Oh, Brian Preston range anxiety is a real thing.
Because you know that there is a 20% cushion that you just don't want to play with. You're not running this range down to zero. So when I tell you that this car does 310, it comfortably has a range of 250 before you start panicking about how far you can go before you need to recharge.
So you're one of those guys that never let the gas tank get below a quarter of a tank. That's
I don't think it's healthy for the battery to run this thing down to zero. So you can imagine, as we come out with even smaller batteries, like the more affordable Model 3, a range of 220 is going to be more like 150. So that makes road trips and long trips, which I know is not every day, it's still the land of the combustible engine.
Sure.
That's because when we go on road trips like to North Carolina from Tennessee, we're taking my wife's SUV because we don't want to have that range anxiety. So 500 miles, why is that the key number? The reason is that 20% cushion still gives a 500 mile battery 400 miles. 400 miles, if you think about it, is getting close to 6 hours worth of driving. 6 hours worth of driving. The average human, we get hungry. The other thing, and it happens more the older you get, because I'm in my
Bio-breaks.
mid-40s, nature calls. You've
right.
got to go to the restroom. You've got to do things. So when you get to 6 hours worth of driving, you are naturally bumping up against the human conditions need to stop anyway for getting out, feeding, using the restroom, all these things. And I think that's the point that range anxiety just goes away. It's game over for the combustible engine, because then you're going just as far as the biggest gas tank that's in your SUVs, your trucks, unless they have multiple, tanks. That's a big deal.
So I want to summarize what you just said. You said Elon's done something really, really good with his infrastructure of charging networks. Like, that's a huge plus. And the two things you think really need to happen before electric cars, and specifically Tesla as an auto manufacturer, is really going to take over the world, is potentially tapping into a market in the truck world that's not been tapped into, and then secondarily getting their range up over 500 miles a trip. If they can do those two things, the sky is the limit for Tesla.
It is game over. And Elon, back in 2006, when he did his master plan, he talked about how the Tesla Roadster, there's a reason he made it faster than the Porsches. There's a reason he wanted to show that electric vehicles dominated the same marketplace. He could do the same thing with trucks and SUVs. Dominate that. And then when the technology catches up, and I know this is not an overnight thing, but when the technology and the battery technology keeps evolving and gets us over 500 miles, guys, you're going to want to join the revolution. So I know there's going to be some haters. Leave some comments below. If you disagree with me, let us know. We love to hear, because that's what keeps this dialogue going, is people. And if you agree with us, if maybe you're a converted person, because look, I'm not your traditional Tesla person. I did not go into this thinking that I needed to cut down my carbon footprint. I went into this because I just loved that this thing, from a gadget factor, had checked all the boxes for me. And now it has changed my behavior completely. I love electric vehicles. Let's do the same thing for all the truck drivers. Let's do the same thing for the small business owners that need a work truck. And Elon's talking about that. He's talking about having charge ports and other functional things within these Tesla trucks. It is going to be awesome. Like I said, when the nerds in Silicon Valley are united with us educated rednecks in the South, it is going to be just beautiful, and we can all hold hands and agree that Tesla makes the best American-made vehicle, and you need to be part of this. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Keep the questions coming. We normally talk about financial stuff, but every now and then, we got to tell you things that we're seeing out there in the world, and then also, hopefully, share some information that Elon will listen to, and then we will be part of the revolution to make things happen for Tesla too. Thanks again, guys. Keep those questions coming. Talk to you soon.